This is the first time I'm ever recording or doing anything at this capacity. And so I asked my wonderful, fantastic human that is sitting next to me, one of my very dear platonic life partners, what should I do for these nerves? And she was like, you know what? Set up your phone and just talk to your phone. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. We're going to get into the nitty gritty really quick here. I've been grappling with some ideas in my head and really just want to kind of speak to the space of what it means to live vicariously through myself, what that looks like today. And, when I was younger, I just was a very, very curious person. And that was something that kept getting taken away from me. I never had governing over my own body. I wasn't allowed to think the things that I was thinking. They were sinful. They were very negative, bad. Everything was like evil. Don't do it. And so I kind of had like I don't know, I had gaslit myself into believing that I was this really bad person growing up. I didn't know that I actually had power and that I could stand in it because everybody else was standing in my power. So it's just time for me to do that very thing. Coming back into, as I was in my healing process and starting to work through and navigate what that space looked like, I really recognized that nobody actually was really paying attention to the youth, to the young people. They weren't paying attention to the curiosity that we should all continue to have, and shifting from dimension to dimension. When babies come into this plane and you just are like, whoa, they're just like, everything's so new to them, but they came from a dimension and they're very curious in this one, because the sight, sounds, and everything, there's senses here. We don't know where all that came from. And I just loved being around babies because of the way that they looked at things. And it was with curiosity. It was no judgment. And I was surrounded by adults and people in my life that always told me how hard everything was and would look at everything with such speculation and judgment that I literally didn't even know how to make a damn decision for myself. I didn't know how to think for myself or to verbalize it out loud if I had a singular thought that was so different than the norm of thought that I was around. So I observed all this in myself as a young person, but I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. Everybody else was living vicariously through me, though. I was in school, I was like a really good student, but then sometimes I was like extremely distracted. I had a lot of learning issues because the societal norm of public schooling did not work for the way that I functioned in learning. I also grew up in a cult. Y'all are just going to get it. I'm just giving it to you. But I grew up in a cult. I grew up with all of this thinking that was, here's a box and we're not going to think outside of it. And when I would think outside of it, it would put me in trouble. It would put me in this space of shame where I was not, where I wasn't the norm. And that was the scariest thing, was to not be normal, right? So I started mimicking a lot of things around me. I mimicked what my fellow cult leaders wanted me to do. I mimicked my teachers. I mimicked my parents. I mimicked my pastors. I mimicked the popular kids in school because their parents were so proud of them. And wasn't living vicariously through myself. Everybody else was. And then if I had a moment or like a breakdown or like a space where I just I was having a block, I would get prayed for instead of, let's go and maybe kind of navigate this with like a therapist or a counselor. And so I would go to church and get prayed over, and then I would be saved. Again, being normal. That was all normal to me, right? I can't tell you how many times that I suffered like actual physical injury, and I had to go to church and pray before I even was allowed to go to the hospital, where the doctors definitely should have been like, your kid shouldn't have been suffering for 24 hours with a broken arm. But anyway, I digress. So outside of the broken parts of myself, my heart being one of them, I will reference that just like NDRE says, we are not the broken pieces inside. We are not the decisions that our parents made. And for a very, very long time, I thought I was those. I thought that I was the decisions that my parents made, because I know a lot of our generation, so I'm 38, a lot of us heard our parents tell us how obligated they were to us. I put a roof over your head. I provided this. Life was hard. I did the best that I could. You were all I cared about. But we don't remember, like, I don't remember sitting with my parents earnestly and them saying how proud they were of me, how much they enjoyed watching me grow. They just let me know how egregious I was to their life and the crutch, it was, again, just like I was a burden coming into this plane. I didn't ask for this shit, but here I am being a burden. So again, I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't even know what to be meant. When people are like, oh my God, you're such a weirdo. You're so weird. You're just so not normal. And so then I would do all the things to be more normal, which was masking. And the masking over years and years and years and years, literally, I don't know, it put me in a position where I didn't want life as I knew it to continue. And so when you try to end those cycles, sometimes you make decisions that have a little bit more of an eternal feeling. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole, and miraculously, I'm still sitting here in this space. So I guess that's why I want to talk about it, because I think that sitting in our normalized society and all the pressures on top of just living, there's cost to that now. And I'm not just talking monetary. I'm talking about, our spiritual cost. Our physical bodies are struggling because of what our spiritual is dealing with. And then our mental, we can't even begin to even sort through that. At times, the tools aren't available, or there just isn't representation. And I didn't have representation growing up. I remember that I discovered that I was the first gay person I ever met. I didn't know what any of that meant until all of a sudden I was like, I think I'm queer. And then I realized that I was the first queer person that I ever met. And that was really scary because there wasn't representation. I was just told that people were disgusting, it was a sin, and you're going to go to hell. And there was nothing worse than being told that you're going to go to hell in the world that I grew up in. So any old way, discovering myself as the first gay person I ever knew, I was almost 22, and I had met somebody that I didn't understand why I had an affinity for them. I had no idea that affinity meant I was gay. I was just looking at someone and enjoying who they were, and I wasn't living vicariously through it. I was just observing them. See, I grew up my whole life being watched. And when I say watched, I'm saying people were waiting for me to slip up so they could discipline me, so that they could scold me, so that they could chastise me. Like all these scary biblical terms, right? Or societal fear-mongering terms to keep you normal. And so I just was enjoying witnessing somebody be free. And then in turn, I was free in that moment. And I had never met that version of myself, which was just me. And so I was able to I still masked for a small period in that time, because I went from one extreme to the next. I went from cult life, being part of my family dynamic for a very long time, to literally being out in the world with no support and no example, I didn't even know what I was aligning to at the time, except that I just wanted to feel this side because I knew what I didn't want to feel like anymore. So I came out of the closet and was not allowed to see my family for 10 years. And I wasn't allowed to engage with the siblings that I had grown up with. So that was really another super difficult part. So my mother had a lot of rule over that, where I wasn't allowed to communicate with my family. And again, how can you learn about yourself if you're not able to kind of sit in space and time and heal that part of yourself? So moving from one extreme to the next, I disassociated. I didn't take time to heal because I was just ready to be. And that was such a pivotal point that led to me having active addictions, having a very severe pain body, suicidal thoughts, suicidal behaviors and tendencies. I was literally acting upon these things to prevent me from feeling by making me feel. Really wild. But I didn't know how to understand myself. I didn't know there were definitions for me. I didn't know that there was a normal world where this identity could exist freely. And so I decided I'm going to create a community. So let's fast forward from all that traumatic nonsense I just told you about to where I'm at now. So I am 38 and choosing healing, allowing myself to break my heart at so many different levels, knowing better, but allowing it, creating the space for it to exist and to sit in the pain bodies that I did. I again kept learning that that's something I didn't want to feel anymore. And I came to a very scary space in my active addiction, as I was a very heavy drinker. Alcohol was definitely the masking tool, the coping mechanism that I used. And I'd have to get up and drink just so I could function. And sometimes I don't really I have a tough time sitting with how severe that actually was, because I remember my siblings would ask me all the time, like, what are you on? What's going on? And I was abusing, certain prescriptions that were, for people with ADHD, even though I wasn't technically diagnosed at that time. And so I was abusing things and drinking on top of all of that. And then I had a season that it was just a decision. I was like, I'm ready. I cannot do this. And as I'm always telling my friend, because I recently stopped some other things, I used to smoke tobacco as well. And I would look at these vices that I had and I'd be like, I am too cute for this. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm too cute. And it's not arrogance. It's like honoring myself in a sense of like, people see me this way. I can see myself that way. And to like literally hold to the fact that this is what healing looks like. And so then you start to just like shed these vices, right? So as I'm shedding these vices, I find myself fidgeting with other things. Like right now I have a tentacle on my finger. And this just brings a lot of ease to my fidget. It's just like becoming an extension of myself where energetically I just get to, unmasking. Let's do it societally. So continuing forward on that, because we could sit and talk in trauma all day. It just feels like the human experience sometimes, but I'm here now to celebrate my healing. I'm so tired of just sitting in the trying, and now I'm doing, and I want to enjoy my healing. It's time. I've been healing for a long time, and yes, it's not a linear thing, and it's not something that's gonna be done. There's gonna be triggers always. There's gonna be spaces that you have to work on, and there's gotta be conscious love that you have with yourself and grace with yourself. And I have finally kind of been in that space, and so I get to enjoy my healing. This is another part of living vicariously through myself. Instead of everybody else enjoying the space and grace that I continue to give them by having so much perspective on their lives, having so much grace on their lives, which also enabled them to continue thinking that they were a good person, and they weren't. And I've just had to actually, in the last 6 months, ask people to let me go. Let me go. I can't be and hold and sit in your present space anymore, because I woke up to the fact that you are consistent in how you underminingly abuse me by not seeing me, by not listening, by not engaging, by not interacting with these deep spaces of myself that I literally gave to you. And it also allowed me to see that I don't need to be telling everybody everything. I don't have to let you in on the process that it took for me to get here. You're meeting me where I'm at. If you are curious and you want to know, you'll ask me a question. But I used to just give that information willingly all the time, instead of just sitting with myself for a moment and just, holding on and smiling to myself. And today I'm literally smiling to myself. I have my best friend next to me. I have such a kindred spirit leading this podcast, guiding me in an energetic way, and just being so genteel. I could not ask for a better person to do this. Thank you, Julius. And his sister's in here too. It's a family affair, y'all. And so today I didn't realize would come, but I manifested it a spell ago. And then today I aligned to it fully. And that is part of living vicariously through myself. And we all can and should at moments just see that we can do that. Like, have you ever like gone out and you're just like living your regular life? Like here's an example. Yesterday I got in my car, it was on empty. Old me never had the money that was so accessible that I could go fill up my car, or like I used to have to like, what am I going to be able to do to pay for this? Like I could barely put in a few dollars. I was literally able to go to the gas station yesterday, use my card outside, fill that thing up, and go live my regular life. That was a stress that I had for a really long time. And now that I've done some healing spaces in myself, I can recognize how far I've come, even simply by being able to put gas in my car. I'm crazy, right? Yes, I could sit here and say all day, like, I shouldn't be here. And this is like, you just got to get up and you got to try. I could tell you all that toxic spiritual psychosis crap. And I'm not here for that. We're all just being. If we can just be, and nobody knows how to, first of all, there isn't anybody else that's going to be a better you than you. So giving yourself the space to sit with yourself, have a conversation with yourself, stop being scared of the voices in your head, maybe hold a conversation with those. Give yourself a minute to just be like, wow, you've come from a place, and now you're here. You didn't know that here would actually look like this, feel like this, smell like this, taste like this. It's all the things, all the senses just coming alive because you're doing it through yourself. But when you do it through other people, where you show up for a space in them and they aren't holding any space for you, honey, you need to call all that energy back in, because they are literally siphoning without your consent, and it's time. Call it back in so you can live vicariously through yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've been fetishized and used for my energy. And this isn't arrogance. This isn't like, oh, I'm better than anybody or my frequency's higher or lower. It's just different. I recognize myself and my power now because I chose to live for myself, through myself, and with myself. Yes, it's great to have romantic partners and best friends and people that will be there in your whole life's journey. But I'm telling you, the people that I had in my life for 25 years, I thought they were the best things I ever knew, until one day I woke up to the fact that they were guarding a door that I wasn't even at anymore. They didn't see me for years, but I was present in their life that whole time. But they were at a door that I was no longer standing at, guarding it. I came out a long time ago and let that go, but it took me a long time to see. And that's just, I'm sick and tired of my hindsight being 20/20. And as an autistic person, I tend to collect a lot of data, so I don't see like red flags. I don't see flags. I just see like, little cliff notes about things. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, okay, right. So hindsight always is 20/20. But when you start living for yourself, then you live in that vibration of what's comfortable. So you will feel a person's energy instead of like having to reason with yourself. You'll feel it in your gut. You'll know it for yourself because it's not aligning. And so that's where I'm at today. That's just the premise of what we're going to be speaking about is, what is it like to give yourself a definition? What is it like to step outside of a box? What is it like to try to even look at the complexities of who you are and define that so that other people can feel safe to unmask with you? And I think one thing that has been just so palpable and important for me is to recognize that I used to be like, what are people going to say? Something? Oh God, wow, something. What are people going to do? Something, and it just comes to you being yourself. I have an outside voice that I wear on my face, so I cannot lie. If people be acting a certain way around me, I'm going to show that it's displeasing. And that's good. I used to not be able to do that because I would mask so much, and I'd be like, it's okay, do you, whatever you want, ha ha ha. And I'm not like that anymore. You will know pretty immediately if how you're behaving around me is going to suit my fancy or not. And then we can move along. But just in this space of unmasking, Christina's sitting here right now. Can you say hi? Because I love your voice.
Hi.
Oh.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes. So let me tell you, here's a little bit of why we got to live vicariously through ourselves. I met Christina on TikTok, and we met in person for the first time a day after my birthday. And we're Leos. Anyway, we got to meet, and that hug was magic. It happened all at the perfect time. I just knew I didn't have to mask. I think the first time we even met, we were like singing out loud in public. We didn't care. And it was just like giving each other permission at the same time. It's also allowing this representation to be seen in society. Societal norm doesn't allow us to see two beautiful humans interacting at a platonic, intimate level. There's always got to be this weird, like, I don't know, like, this isn't normal, right, for society to witness. So I'm not even here trying to create or trying to normalize that this is exactly what it looks like. This is just what it looks like for me. And I'm not here to tell you how to live your life and why you should go this direction or even suggest anything. I'm just speaking to what I'm doing. And as a non-binary, teetering on the level of monogamous and polyamorous, I have ADHD, I'm autistic, I have severe religious trauma. And all these things are just very fluid now. Instead of just sitting in this like box that I'm just going to continue in pain, I decided that I want to live vicariously through myself, heal with and for myself, and involve my community with that. So Christina comes along, and I tell you what, we just go out and we be. We out here being. And we ain't concerned about it, but more often than not, the things that were once called or defined as weird in a negative sense are like the most brilliant things to us now. I can't tell you how many people come up to us and say, thank you for being, your energy's a vibe. Wow, I just love whatever you're doing here, yada, yada. That back in the day, I was the person sitting in the corner being like, I don't think that I could ever behave that way. I don't think I could ever do that. I masked so much that I had these like little behaviors that I would go do secretly, like in a bathroom, especially at church. And I would like rub my hands together and I do all this stuff. And now I'm realizing like how energetic and stimming that was for me. It's very, very healthy. And I think that we need to unmask societally, in our own society. We can parallel play with our people at any capacity and give each other permission to just be. We can be alone together. We can stim together. There is a safe space always because I am living vicariously through me. I'm not trying to do that with somebody else. But then your people come around and then all of a sudden you just have your own community and you've unmasked an entire perception of your community that maybe you didn't know before, that maybe you didn't know needed tending. So, any old way, Christina has witnessed in a palindrome of time already so much healing. We've healed a lot of things just in with and for ourselves because of the way that we process on the phone. We are so neuro that we have to it's a FaceTime about everything or a video about everything. And then when we're together, we have these like sensory things that just provide us more of that safe space. And so if you don't mind, would you like to just speak to the space of what it's been like for the last six-ish months of hanging out with me and living vicariously through yourself?
I would love to. And first, I just want to say, this friendship, I mean, I've said this before where this isn't even a friendship, but we're not in a partnership, what people would call a relationship. It's a different type of relationship. And so what's been happening over the last 6 months is I've been realizing that we're literally rewriting what romance, intimacy, relationships, all of it looks like, because we don't have a physical connection. We hold hands and, you know, snuggle all the time, but there's a fulfillment that I've been getting that I didn't realize could even exist, because I've been searching for this person, this relationship, this love, this, you know, all of it in one human being, and in what I thought had to be what society thinks is a romantic relationship. And so anytime I'm saying romantic now, I'm doing air quotes, because it's like it doesn't even exist in my brain as what it's always been.
Right.
And I'm, like I said, more fulfilled than I've ever been. And so, like, I'm honestly, to be honest, I'm on dating apps right now. And I don't even want to date any, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can meet some friends. But then at the same time, I'm like, I'm good right now. Like, I don't even know what I'm even looking for, if it's just habit or whatever, but I am fulfilled. Like, and I feel like I can be my true self, running around with a tentacle on my finger, singing songs about everything we're doing. And like, it just unmasking, literally. But yeah, ultimately, from this entire experience over the last 6 months, we've just been rewriting what all of those things, the definition, and we don't even know what that looks like yet. I think there's a whole nother word for this relationship.
I agree.
That it doesn't exist besides friendship and partner or lover. It's like, and we call each other lover too, but
yeah,
it's something else, a word that doesn't exist, and maybe we need to make it up. I don't know.
Okay, so you just brought up the best thing. When I was younger, I watched this series called Anne of Green Gables on PBS, okay? It's a great show. I don't care what you all say. It was made in the 80s. It was filmed in Canada. It's brilliant and beautiful, and it's amazing. And there's a friendship on there between Diana Barry and Anne with an E. And I loved their friendship. You could feel the earnest connection that they had. And she would always say that she was looking for a bosom friend and a kindred spirit. And I just remember as a kid, like, I want that.
A bosom friend.
That would be great, you know?
Are we bosom friends?
We are bosom friends. And I just remember that was the space as a kid that I was like, that is pure and intentional. And of course, I didn't know those words as a young person, but because body language is our first language, you could just see their pure intention with how they held space for each other, not even in a hug, but just how they would sit and be with each other in their little adventures. It was just so magical. And if you haven't seen this, we're going to go watch it, because you're Diana Barry and I'm Anne.
Oh, perfect.
Dan E. Anyway, so this has kind of been all over the place, but just to set like kind of where all this is going is that we should never think that because something is written down as a definition that you can't look at that and that it can't mean something totally different to you years later. Because I was always feeling like, I don't have the kids, I'm queer, all these things that society said wouldn't make me successful is literally the reason that I am finding my most successful space in life. And I had to rewrite that. I had to rewrite relationships. And Christina and I have a very romantic relationship. I have another friend, Lou, who has definitely brought in so much of like the safe space of being held, because I thought for a long time that the only if I was going to have a romantic relationship or experience human touch was to be in a relationship with a person, no matter how toxic or wherever, because I was still stuck in that purity culture, misogynistic, patriarchal view that you are just somebody's, you are owned in that situation, which is like, you don't get to govern your body and be like, oh gosh, I'd like to experience different levels of intimacy with different people, where like I can get a friend hug that means so much more to me than being like slapped on the ass by my romantic partner, right?
Yes.
So it's rewriting all, like you just said, rewriting, redefining, reassessing what that means, and how that feels to us. And this is definitely one of the most romantic partnerships, platonic intimacies I've ever known. And I 100% feel like this is the most me that I have ever allowed myself to be, because we do control that, right? Where we allow what we allow. And this is the most me I've ever been.
This is the most free I've ever been.
And I just want people to know that they can do this, and they don't have to have sex with the person that they absolutely love and adore.
You
and
could
make
if that's what works for you, but like I'm figuring out, like, and I mean, there's a whole nother topic on sexuality that I'm still discovering within myself, and this specific partner, connection, relationship, you know, bosom friend, you know, is where I'm like questioning all of it, because I'm celibate right now, and I've always thought of myself as a very physical person that always wanted that type of partnership and connection with someone. But now I'm like, well, wow, I haven't been needing that, like, and I'm not craving that. Have I ever wanted that?
It. Then you're like,
or have I always wanted that because I thought that's what they wanted, and I want them to be happy, and you need to do this for your partner so that they know that you love them. And, and now I'm like, well, did I ever like sex? Did I ever want that? I don't know. It's beautiful, and I've had good moments. I think,
right.
You know, but I don't know that I know I've never initiated it. It's always been initiated at me, and I'm like, okay, this is what they want, and here we are. And so now I'm like, wow, I'm fulfilled, and it's not part of it. It's not part of it.
It's not the end goal vibe anymore.
It's crazy to me in the best way. So yeah, it's uncovering all kinds of things. Lots of stones to look underneath.
So also when you were speaking, just really quickly to like knowing, or just like understanding, like, do I like this? Is this something that I want to do? These are just like more spaces that I want to speak to as well, just because I think that, you know, gender expression, gender identity, sexual expression, sexual identity, all these things are just, obviously, I think they're very fluid, and we're going to go in and out of these spaces of discovering what we're going to feel comfortable with. Also, I've never been this version of myself, okay? When you're growing and then people are like, you're going to return to yourself. I don't want to return to myself who I was at 12. Hell no. I'm not trying to be that person. I'm just trying to become. Like, the growing is for us to become and to give ourselves space and allow ourselves the opportunity to redefine, or not be so bound by a definition. Maybe that word resonates and you get to like find the flow of it for yourself. Because right now I identify as non-binary. I think that I'm like in between polyamorous and monogamous. There's not really a word for it because of the intimacy of connections that I have at an emotional level. I tend to not share that with my sexual partner. And so that's a whole other thing. It's a dynamic, you know? So then I have to start saying like, well, maybe I'm polyamorous because, you know, a partner could get jealous because I have emotional intimacy, which is a non-negotiable. That's not going anywhere. That's my safe space. I have and will continue to have that in my life. And that's just going to happen. And partners, you have to have a lot of discussions with them, or create a very safe space for you to communicate where you may be feeling like left out, or understanding that that's not a pillar for you to fulfill, right? So we don't need to get jealous about not fulfilling something for our partner. If they're like, I'm being fulfilled over here though, like, just, what I'm saying. Yeah. Anyway, so I've never been this version of myself, and I'm tapping into this palindrome of time where I'm karmically sitting quicker with things. Like, I don't have to sit and put myself through years of pain or years of study to like figure it out. I can listen to my gut brain. I'm understanding that like, oh, okay, that's for me. That's not for me. Move through it. This is like, it's okay to change your damn mind. Let me say it one more time. It's okay to change your mind. You know why? Because it's yours, and you can change your mind. Okay? Anyway, so being this version of myself now, like growing into this version of myself, growing in love with myself, has been the most challenging, most shedding of skin I have ever done. I thought that all those things that I wanted and needed in my life, Literally not one of those things from a year ago are in my life now. Not one of those things. But what is in my life now is everything I manifested when I was in the deep, dark recesses of my shadow work and my womb healing, my yoni cleansing, all the practices, okay? I got to, I became this version because of that. And this version just wants a moment to celebrate. You get to take these little milestones. So this version of where I'm at in my healing, I get to celebrate. I get to celebrate in this platonic intimacy. I get to celebrate within the unmasking in my community, the parallel play with that, within the absolute and beautiful way that we can create our own little society and move through and heal that, giving ourselves permission and others permission around us to just be. And I think it's important to look at your life sometimes and know that you're not trying, you're doing. Trying is that defeating word. And I think that we have all these little sayings all the time that we're so proud of, and it's like, it's like a spell though, oh, just trying out here. If you say it with like, oh, and you're just trying, then you're literally giving yourself no credit for the movement that you're doing. So I've taken trying out and I'm doing. And I know that a lot of us are in the doing. And that's why we're creating these little pockets of community. That's why we're creating, like, people are like, you'll find your community. Sometimes you will create it. Sometimes you will create your community. So don't beat yourself up if you're not finding something and the universe isn't sending it to you, because more often than not, you're probably a healer and you're going to bring all of these things together for a pocket for other people to be in as well. So that's really what I just wanted to start off with today. I could sit here for another hour and a half just to say thank you to very specific individuals in my community, but one person that I really want to give a big shout out to is Lizzie Brody. Lizzie Mother Brody, one of the dopest humans that I've ever known. I have the privilege of calling this person friend, but this human has seen me for a really long time, just in my healing process, and always encourages me. And that is quite honestly why I am sitting in this chair today, is because Lizzie Brody connected all of these dots by just being open and saying, why don't you just do it? And I was like, wow, I like that. I think I will. And so I'm here today because of Lizzie Brody prompting a lot of this. And obviously my entire beautiful community that I will continue bringing in spades. We're just going to have all these humans come up. But Christina, thank you so much for sitting with me in this space today, for being somebody that's just genteel and truly seeing, listening, and enjoying this healing space with me.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for growing alongside me and allowing me to witness you blossoming. I can't even believe it. It's like flowers are just everywhere. They're just popping up. It's nuts.
We're just
and it's
doing.
Just going to keep going.
It is.
This is the beginning.
The beginning.
This is just the beginning.
I love it. And then also, Julius over here just being your genteel self. I'll just continue saying that. Honestly, one of the most earnest humans I've ever met right off the rip. And to feel comfortable enough to sit in this being my first time, and he's just over here enhancing my joy and just being a hype human for me. Thank you. I'm really excited to continue working with you too, because we got some things we gonna do. Ooh. So y'all, I just thanks for sitting in space with me today. I'm not asking for anybody to hold space. I'm just asking for you to just sit present with yourself. If you resonated with anything here, awesome. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you how to go about anything. I'm just sharing this experience, because sometimes just sharing gives another person permission to be. So that's what we're going to do. Stay creating in love out there, and we'll talk soon.
Oh.
That was really good.
What?
And you were
What?
worried and scared. That was really, really good.
That was your first episode? Yeah.
I cried like 3 times.
I'm over here nodding my head like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got goosies. I got, you know what I'm saying? They on there. That was your first episode, yo.
Whoa. Thank you
That
for
was
allowing me to be
crazy.
part of that because, wow.
That was crazy. That was crazy.